The chamber is open and full of whispers.
What if Harry Potter had never lived in a cupboard under the stairs? What if, instead of growing up starved for affection in the Dursley household, he'd been raised in a warm home in Crawley, Sussex by two loving dentists named Dan and Emma Granger? What if the lightning-scarred boy who survived Voldemort's curse had a sister, not by blood but by choice, named Hermione Jean Granger? This isn't just a story about changing Harry's address. It's about fundamentally reimagining what the boy who lived would become if he'd been raised alongside the brightest witch of her age, in a household where love wasn't rationed but freely given, where intelligence was celebrated rather than punished, where magic wasn't a shameful secret, but a wonder waiting to be understood. Today, we're exploring one of the most emotionally powerful what-if scenarios in Harry Potter. What happens when you take two children destined for greatness and raise them as siblings? When Harry's instinct meets Hermione's logic? When chaos and order grow up sharing the same breakfast table, the same accidental magic incidents, the same deep, unshakable bond that only siblings can forge? This changes everything. Not just their childhoods, but their entire approach to friendship, danger, sacrifice, and war. Because canon Harry and Hermione were friends who chose each other. But Granger raised Harry and Hermione? They never had to choose. They simply were, from the very beginning, each other's constant. We'll explore how Dumbledore could possibly justify placing Harry with Muggles instead of Petunia, and why the blood protection would still work. We'll watch Harry grow up not desperate for attention but secure in love, not academically neglected but intellectually curious, not alone but accompanied by a sister whose brilliance matches his courage in every way. We'll see Hermione transformed too, not the lonely girl using books as armor against rejection, but a confident child who never knew isolation because Harry was always there. Her perfectionism becomes purposeful rather than neurotic. Her rule-breaking in service of friendship becomes instinctive because protecting Harry is as natural as breathing, and we'll examine the dynamics this creates. Ron Weasley's role as the essential bridge rather than a third wheel. Draco Malfoy learning very quickly that insulting Hermione Granger means facing her brother's wrath. Dumbledore recognizing that these two children have a magical bond deeper than anyone anticipated, a resonance that makes them stronger together than apart. This is a story about chosen family, about two children who look nothing alike, share no blood, but are siblings in every way that matters. About how love, real, unconditional, freely given love, creates magic more powerful than any spell Voldemort could cast. So let's explore what happens when Harry Potter grows up with a sister. When Hermione Granger has a brother, when the boy who lived and the brightest witch of her age face Hogwarts, face danger, face war, together. Because some bonds aren't forged by blood. Some bonds are forged by choice. And those bonds are unbreakable. November 1981, The Choice. The house at Godric's Hollow was rubble. Albus Dumbledore stood amid the wreckage, his usually twinkling eyes grave as he surveyed the destruction. Hagrid had already left with baby Harry, headed for Privet Drive where Petunia Dursley waited with bitter obligation to accept her nephew. But something wasn't sitting right with Dumbledore. He'd spent the past hour examining the magical residue, confirming what he'd suspected. Lily Potter's sacrifice had created protection magic more powerful than anything he'd seen in 70 years of studying ancient enchantments. The love-based shield that had rebounded Voldemort's curse wasn't just impressive. It was revolutionary, but it required blood kinship to maintain. Petunia's house was the only place the protection would work. Dumbledore had already explained this to Minerva McGonagall, who'd argued vehemently against sending Harry to the Dursleys, but ultimately accepted the magical necessity. Except, Dumbledore's attention caught on something unusual, a second magical signature, faint but distinct, woven through Lily's protection charm. He examined it carefully, his experienced mind analyzing the pattern. There was another child. Somewhere in Britain, a Muggle-born witch had been born within weeks of Harry Potter, and her latent magic was resonating with the protection Lily had created. The resonance was so strong that Dumbledore could trace it, a thread of magical potential connecting Harry Potter to a child he'd never met. Curious, Dumbledore murmured. Very curious indeed. He apparated directly to his office at Hogwarts and began searching through the records of Muggle-born children, scheduled to receive letters in 10 years' time. There weren't many born in 1979 or early 1980. Voldemort's war had suppressed the birth rate across Britain, magical and Muggle alike. But one name caught his attention: Hermione Jean Granger, born September 19, 1979, to Daniel and Emma Granger of Crawley, Sussex. Both parents dentists, both highly educated muggles, no previous magical ancestry detected. Dumbledore closed his eyes and performed a long-distance magical analysis, something only the most powerful wizards could manage. The results confirmed his suspicion. This child's magical signature was extraordinarily strong, and more importantly, it was harmonically aligned with Harry Potter's magic in ways that suggested deep compatibility. An idea began forming, a wild, unprecedented idea that might solve multiple problems simultaneously. What if the blood protection wasn't the only option? What if there was another way? One that had never been tried because the circumstances had never existed before. Dumbledore spent the next 3 days in intense research, barely sleeping, consulting texts on ancient magic that most wizards didn't know existed. He examined everything written about love-based protection, about magical resonance between unrelated individuals, about the power of chosen family versus blood family. On the 4th day, he reached a conclusion. It could work. It would require precise casting, absolute commitment from the adoptive family, and a level of trust that Dumbledore rarely placed in muggles. But it could work. He apparated to privet drive first. Petunia Dursley answered the door with a scowl. "What do you want?" "I've come to discuss Harry," Dumbledore said gently. "I'm not taking him," Petunia said immediately. "I don't care what you said in that letter. I'm not raising that boy. He'll bring nothing but trouble and freakishness into my home, and Vernon won't stand for it. Dursley, the protection. I don't care about your protection. My sister chose that world, and it got her killed. I'm not letting it destroy my family, too. Find someone else." She slammed the door. Dumbledore stood on the doorstep for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, he smiled slightly. "Thank you, Petunia," he said quietly to the closed door. "You've just given me permission to try something remarkable." He apparated to Crawley, Sussex, to a neat suburban home with a red door and a garden that showed careful attention. The Granger residence. Dan Granger answered the knock, blinking in surprise at the elderly man in purple robes standing on his doorstep at 9 o'clock on a Thursday evening. "Can I help you?" Dan asked cautiously. "My name is Albus Dumbledore," the old man said. "I'm the headmaster of a school called Hogwarts. I'm here to speak with you about your daughter Hermione, and about a rather unusual proposal." Dan and Emma Granger sat in their living room 30 minutes later, listening to the most extraordinary story they'd ever heard. Their daughter was a witch. Magic was real. There was an entire hidden society of magical people living alongside the Muggle world. And the man sitting across from them, who'd just turned their teapot into a tortoise and back again to prove his claims, wanted to place another magical child in their care. "Let me make sure I understand this correctly," Emma said slowly, her analytical mind trying to process the impossible. "You want us to adopt a 15-month-old boy whose parents were murdered by a dark wizard. This boy, Harry, has protection magic that requires love and family to maintain. And you think placing him with our daughter would create some kind of magical resonance?" "Precisely," Dumbledore said. "I've spent 3 days researching this possibility. Your daughter's magical signature is extraordinarily compatible with Harry's. If you were to adopt Harry, to truly accept him as your son, I believe the love-based protection could be adapted to work through chosen family rather than blood family. It's unprecedented, but the magical theory is sound." "And if it doesn't work," Dan asked, "then Harry would still have a loving home," Dumbledore said simply. "Which is more than he would have with his blood relatives who've made it clear they don't want him. But I believe it will work, Mr. Hem. And Mrs. Granger. Your daughter and Harry Potter are magically compatible in ways I've rarely seen. I think they're meant to be together." Emma looked at her husband. They'd been trying for a second child for 2 years without success. And now this strange wizard was offering them a son. A magical son who needed them. "Can we see him?" Emma asked. Dumbledore smiled. "I was hoping you'd ask." He conjured a portkey, a small wooden toy, and transported all 3 of them to a safe house where Hagrid was watching Harry. The massive gamekeeper looked surprised, but handed the baby over to Dumbledore without question. Harry Potter was small for 15 months, with a shock of messy black hair and eyes that were brilliantly impossibly green, and on his forehead, barely visible beneath his fringe, was a lightning bolt scar. Emma took Harry carefully, expecting him to fuss at being held by a stranger. Instead, Harry looked at her with those green eyes and reached up to touch her face with one small hand. "Hello," Emma whispered. "Hello, Harry." Dan leaned in, and Harry transferred his attention to him, studying this new person with serious concentration. Then, unexpectedly, Harry smiled. Something shifted in the room. A warmth, a sense of rightness. Dumbledore felt it and knew the magic had already begun recognizing this connection. "We'll take him," Dan said, his voice thick with emotion. "If you think this can work, if there's a chance we can keep him safe and give him a family, we'll take him. There are conditions. First, you must be told the truth about why Harry's parents died and about the threat that may someday return. Second, I'll need to place protective enchantments on your home, a Fidelius charm to make it unplottable, and blood wards adapted to recognize chosen family rather than biological relation. Third, you must raise Harry knowing his history. He deserves to know who his parents were and why they died." "We understand," Emma said, still holding Harry, who'd settled against her shoulder as if he'd always belonged there. "And finally," Dumbledore continued, "you must love him. Not out of obligation, not out of pity, but genuinely, as you love Hermione. The protection magic requires true, unconditional love to function. Can you offer him that?" Dan and Emma looked at each other, then at the small boy with the lightning scar who'd already stolen their hearts. "Yes," they said together. The magical paperwork took 2 weeks. Dumbledore worked with the ministry to arrange a legal adoption, navigating bureaucracy with surprising skill. The story given to officials was simple. Harry's aunt had refused guardianship, and the Grangers had agreed to adopt through a special program for magical orphans. The protection enchantments took another week. Dumbledore cast the Fidelius charm himself, making the Granger home unplottable to anyone he hadn't personally told the location. He then performed something far more complex, a blood ward adaptation that would recognize Dan and Emma's conscious choice to protect Harry as equivalent to Petunia's blood connection to Lily. "This is experimental magic," Dumbledore warned as he cast the final spell, his wand creating intricate patterns of golden light that sank into the house's foundation. "It's never been attempted before. But I believe your love for Harry, genuine, freely chosen love, will power these protections as strongly as any blood connection could." The magic settled. The house glowed briefly with a warm golden light, and Dumbledore smiled. "It's done. Harry Potter is now Harry Granger, protected by love, living in a home that Voldemort's followers will never be able to find or harm." Emma, holding 2-year-old Hermione in one arm and Harry in the other, looked down at her children, both of them now, truly, and felt certainty settle in her chest. "Thank you," she told Dumbledore, "for trusting us with him." "Thank you," Dumbledore replied, "for proving that family is always a choice. You've given Harry something Lily and James would have wanted for him above all else, a chance to grow up loved. Early childhood, ages 2. 6 growing up Granger. Hermione Jean Granger had been an only child for 2 years and 4 months. Then, November evening in 1981, her parents brought home a baby brother. "His name is Harry," Emma explained, kneeling beside 2-year-old Hermione with Harry in her arms. "He's going to live with us now. He's your brother." Hermione, already unusually verbal for her age, studied the baby with serious concentration. "Baby," she declared. "Yes, your baby brother. Can you be gentle with him?" Hermione reached out carefully and patted Harry's hand. Harry, who'd been watching her with equal seriousness, grabbed her finger and held on. "Mine," Hermione said decisively. Emma smiled. "Yes, sweetheart, yours." From that moment, Hermione took her role as big sister with absolute seriousness. She helped pick out Harry's clothes each morning, with limited success. Her color coordination was creative at best. She read him stories from picture books, narrating elaborate tales that had nothing to do with the actual text. She insisted on sitting next to his high chair during meals, carefully feeding him mashed banana when Emma wasn't looking fast enough. And when Harry cried, Hermione would toddle over and pat his head, saying, "'S okay, Harry. Mione's here." It worked. Harry would calm almost instantly when Hermione was near. Dan and Emma noticed this quickly. Their children seemed unusually attuned to each other, not just in the normal sibling way, but something deeper. When Hermione was upset, Harry would crawl toward her even before she started crying. When Harry was hungry, Hermione would go to the kitchen and point at his bottles. They developed their own language of gestures and sounds that their parents couldn't always decipher. It's like they're connected, Dan observed, when the children were 3 and 2. Both were in the living room, Harry playing with blocks while Hermione looked at books. Hermione suddenly looked up, turned to Harry, and said something in their private language. Harry immediately abandoned his blocks and crawled to her, and they both started giggling. Dumbledore said they were magically compatible, Emma reminded him. Maybe this is what he meant. The first major magical incident occurred when Hermione was 4 and Harry was 3. They'd been playing in the garden, and Hermione had climbed too high in the oak tree. She slipped, falling toward the ground. Time seemed to slow. Harry screamed, "No!" and threw his hands up. Hermione stopped in midair, floating gently down to land on the grass completely unharmed. Both children stared at each other in shock. Then Harry started crying from fear and relief, and Hermione ran to him, wrapping her small arms around her brother. "You saved me," she said, her voice full of wonder. "Harry, you saved me." "Didn't want you hurt," Harry managed through tears. Dan and Emma, who'd witnessed the entire event, looked at each other with a mixture of awe and concern. "We need to contact Dumbledore," Emma said. Dumbledore arrived that evening, listened to their account, and smiled broadly. "This is precisely what I'd hoped for," he said. "Their magic is responding to each other." Harry's protective instinct triggered his power. This is advanced magic for a 3-year-old. Usually, accidental magic is random and emotional. But Harry's magic had purpose. He saw his sister in danger, and his power responded. "Is that normal?" Dan asked. "For siblings?" "Sometimes. For magical siblings with the kind of resonance Harry and Hermione share, this is extraordinary. Their magic isn't just compatible, it's complementary. They're going to be very powerful together." "Is that dangerous?" Emma asked. "Only if they're not properly trained. Which is why I'd like to propose something, allowing Hogwarts staff to visit periodically as the children grow up. Not to teach them magic, they're too young, but to help them understand what they're experiencing, to ensure their power develops safely." Dan and Emma agreed. Over the next several years, various Hogwarts professors made occasional visits to the Granger home. Professor McGonagall came twice a year, explaining magical concepts in ways 4-year-olds could understand, and helping the children learn to recognize when their magic was activating. Professor Flitwick visited once to teach them basic meditation techniques for emotional control. Even Hagrid stopped by, delighting the children with stories about magical creatures. But it was Dumbledore who visited most often, usually around Harry's birthday and Christmas. He'd sit with both children, tell them stories about the magical world, and answer their increasingly sophisticated questions. "Why do I have a scar?" Harry asked when he was 5, tracing the lightning bolt on his forehead. Dumbledore had been expecting this question. He glanced at Dan and Emma, who nodded. They'd agreed Harry should know the truth gradually, age appropriately. "Your birth parents loved you very much," Dumbledore said gently. "But there was a bad wizard who wanted to hurt you. Your mother used very powerful magic, love magic, to protect you. The scar is a mark of that protection. It means you survived something impossible because your mother loved you enough to save you." "Where are they now?" Harry asked. "My birth parents? They died protecting you." "I'm very sorry, Harry. But they made sure you'd be safe. They made sure you'd have a family who loves you." He gestured to Dan, Emma, and Hermione. "This family." Harry absorbed this seriously. Then he reached for Hermione's hand. "Good. I like this family." "I like you in our family," Hermione said loyally. "You're my brother. Forever." "Forever," Harry agreed. By age 6, both children were reading fluently. Hermione voraciously, Harry selectively but with genuine interest. They'd developed distinct personalities that complemented each other perfectly. Hermione was structured, organized, intensely curious about how things worked. She read encyclopedias for fun, asked questions constantly, and created elaborate classification systems for her toys. When she wanted to understand something, she researched obsessively until she'd mastered it. Harry was intuitive, action-oriented, protective of those he loved. He preferred stories about adventure and heroes. When he wanted to understand something, he'd dive in and learn by doing, often making spectacular mistakes but adapting quickly. He was also fiercely loyal. When Hermione was picked on by older children at the park, 6-year-old Harry had stepped between them without hesitation, prepared to fight despite being smaller. "You're going to be trouble at school," Dan told Harry affectionately after retrieving him from a confrontation where he'd defended Hermione from a bully. He was being mean to Hermione, Harry said, as if this explained everything. I know, and I'm proud of you for standing up for your sister. But Harry, you can't just hit people. I didn't hit him. I pushed him. And then I yelled, "Still, there are better ways." He called her a freak, Harry interrupted, his green eyes flashing with anger, for asking too many questions. That's not fair. Hermione's brilliant, not a freak. Dan crouched to Harry's level. You're right. It's not fair, and Hermione is brilliant, but when you fight to defend her, you might get hurt. I need you to be smart about how you protect your sister, okay? I'll always protect her, Harry said with absolute certainty. She's my sister. The bond between the children was so obvious that their primary school teachers commented on it repeatedly. They sat together at lunch, played together at recess, and seemed to communicate without words. When Hermione struggled with PE, Harry would encourage her until she succeeded. When Harry got frustrated with math, Hermione would explain it in ways that made sense to him. They're unusually close for siblings with an age gap, one teacher observed during a parent conference. Most 5-year-olds don't want to spend all their time with a 4-year-old, but Hermione and Harry seem inseparable. They've always been that way, Emma said. Since the day we brought Harry home. Well, it's lovely to see. They're very good for each other. And they were. Hermione made Harry think before acting, challenging him intellectually, teaching him patience. Harry made Hermione brave, encouraging her to try new things, reminding her that failure wasn't catastrophic. Together, they were more than the sum of their parts. The second major magical incident occurred when Hermione was 6 and Harry was 5. They'd been playing in their room when Hermione had an idea. Harry, what if we could make the toys fly, like you made me float? I don't know how I did that, Harry said. It just happened. But what if we tried? Together? They held hands and stared at Harry's toy broomstick, a gift from Dumbledore that hovered a few inches off the ground when pressed. They concentrated hard, willing it to move. The broomstick shot upward, smashed into the ceiling, ricocheted off the walls, and finally settled gently on the floor. Both children stared in amazement, then at each other, then started laughing in delight. We did magic, Hermione exclaimed. Real magic. Together. From downstairs, Emma called. What was that noise? Nothing, they chorused, dissolving into giggles. But privately, they began experimenting. Carefully, when their parents weren't watching, they'd try to make small things happen. Moving objects, changing colors, making flowers bloom. They couldn't always control it. The magic was still wild, instinctive. But when they worked together, when they both wanted the same thing, their success rate was remarkably high. We're magic, Harry said one evening as they lay in their respective beds, darkness broken only by a nightlight shaped like a star. Really, properly magic. We always were, Hermione replied. Dumbledore said so, but Harry, we have to be careful. We're not supposed to do magic around normal people. Only around family. So I can do magic around you. I'm always going to be your family. Even when we're old. Promise? Promise? You're my brother Harry. You're my favorite person. You're mine too, Harry said. Forever. Forever. They fell asleep, secure in the knowledge that whatever magic they possessed, whatever adventures awaited them in this strange world they were learning about, they'd face it together. Because they were Harry and Hermione Granger. And they chose each other every single day. Ages 710. The magical education. When Hermione turned 7 and Harry turned 6, Dan and Emma sat both children down for a serious conversation. You're both getting older, Dan began. Your magic is getting stronger. And we think it's time you learned the full truth about the magical world and what it means for you. Over the next hour, they explained everything. Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, where both children would attend when they were old enough, the Ministry of Magic which governed magical society, the Statute of Secrecy, which kept the magical world hidden from non-magical people, and most importantly, Harry's history. You were born Harry James Potter, Emma said gently, holding Harry's hand. Your birth parents were James and Lily Potter. They were killed by a dark wizard named Voldemort when you were 15 months old. You survived because your mother's love protected you. Harry touched his scar. This is from him? From Voldemort? Yes. But Harry, you need to understand something very important. You're safe now. Voldemort was destroyed when his curse failed. He can't hurt you. Why did he want to hurt me in the first place? Harry asked. We don't know all the details, Dan admitted. Only Dumbledore knows the full story. And he says you'll learn it when you're older. But Harry, what matters is that you survived. You're here, you're safe, and you're our son. What about Hermione? Harry asked. Is she adopted too? No, sweetheart, Emma said. Hermione is our biological daughter, but you're both our children. Equally, we love you both exactly the same. Hermione had been quiet throughout this conversation, processing. Now she spoke up. So Harry's famous? In the magical world? Yes, Dan confirmed. He's called the boy who lived. When you both go to Hogwarts, people will know who he is. That's not fair, Hermione said immediately. He didn't choose to be famous. He was just a baby. You're right, it's not fair, Emma agreed. Which is why we're telling you both now. Harry, when you get to Hogwarts, people will treat you differently because of your scar and your history. Some will be excited to meet you. Some will have expectations. You need to be prepared for that. I don't want to be famous, Harry said. I just want to be normal. You're not normal, Hermione told him matter-of-factly. You're my brother. That makes you special, but not because of a scar. Because of you, Harry smiled. Thanks, Hermione. Also, we're going to Hogwarts together, so even if people are weird about you being famous, I'll be there. We'll handle it. Together, Harry agreed. After that conversation, the children's curiosity about the magical world intensified. They begged Dan and Emma for any information they could provide. Emma bought books. Hogwarts, the history, the tales of Beedle the Bard, various texts on basic magical theory. Hermione devoured them all, reading passages aloud to Harry, who listened with genuine interest even as his own reading tended toward adventure stories. Did you know Hogwarts was founded over 1,000 years ago? Hermione asked excitedly when she was 8. By 4 of the greatest witches and wizards of the age, Godric Gryffindor, Rowena Ravenclaw, Helga Hufflepuff, and Salazar Slytherin. Which house do you think we'll be in? Harry asked. Hermione considered this seriously. I think I'd be good in Ravenclaw. They value intelligence and learning. But Gryffindor values bravery, and I think you'd be Gryffindor. What if we're in different houses? Then we'll just visit each other a lot. The book says inter-house friendships are common. I don't want to be in a different house, Harry said. I want to be with you. Harry, the Sorting Hat decides based on our values and personality. We can't control which house we're sorted into. But what if? We'll make it work, Hermione interrupted firmly. Even if we're in different houses, we're still siblings. Nothing changes that. Harry wasn't entirely reassured, but he trusted Hermione's confidence. When Harry turned 8 and Hermione 9, Professor McGonagall visited with a proposition. Your accidental magic is becoming more frequent and more powerful, she observed after witnessing Harry accidentally levitate all the books in the study when he'd been trying to reach one on a high shelf. It's time to begin teaching you control. Not spell work, you're too young for wands, but magical discipline. Focus, meditation, emotional regulation. The foundations that will make you excellent students when you reach Hogwarts. She came every few weeks after that, teaching both children techniques for recognizing when their magic was activating and how to channel it safely. Hermione approached it like a science, taking notes and asking detailed questions about the theory. Harry learned through practice, developing an instinctive feel for his magic's rhythms. You're both progressing remarkably well, McGonagall told them after a session where they'd successfully performed controlled levitation of small objects without wands. I've never seen children your age with this degree of control. We practice together, Hermione explained, every evening before bed. Harry helps me when I get frustrated, and I help him understand the theory behind what he's doing instinctively. You complement each other, McGonagall observed. That's rare, even among siblings. Treasure that connection. We do, Harry and Hermione said simultaneously, then grinned at each other. The third major magical incident occurred when Hermione was 9 and Harry was 8. They'd been at the local library, Hermione's favorite place, when a group of older boys started harassing her about being a know-it-all and thinking she's better than everyone. Harry had been in another aisle. But the moment Hermione felt genuinely threatened, one boy had grabbed her arm. Harry appeared, not walked up, appeared. He'd somehow instinctively apparated across the library. Let go of my sister, Harry said, his voice deadly calm despite being 3 years younger and 6 inches shorter than the bully. Or what, pipsqueak? Harry's magic exploded outward. Every book in the immediate vicinity flew off the shelves, swirling around them in a protective tornado. The boys ran, terrified. When the book settled and the librarian came running, Harry and Hermione were standing in the center of the chaos, holding hands, looking shocked. "I didn't mean to do that," Harry said. "I know," Hermione replied. "But thank you for trying to protect me." Always. Dan and Emma were called to the library. They apologized profusely, paid for minor damages, and took the children home. Once there, they called Dumbledore immediately. "Accidental apparition at age 8? Dumbledore repeated, his eyebrows climbing toward his hairline. "And protective magic manifesting as controlled levitation of multiple objects? This is extraordinary." "Is it dangerous?" Emma asked. "Not inherently. But it does indicate that Harry's protective instincts regarding Hermione are triggering his magic in increasingly sophisticated ways. The apparition is particularly remarkable. Most adult wizards struggle with that magic. For Harry to do it accidentally, purely because he sensed Hermione in distress, Dumbledore shook his head in wonder. "Their bond is even deeper than I realized." "What do we do?" Dan asked. "Continue as you are. Let them be children. Let them be siblings. But also understand that when they reach Hogwarts, their magical compatibility will be apparent to everyone. That will draw attention, positive and negative. Prepare them for scrutiny." "We're already preparing Harry for being famous," Emma said. "Now prepare Hermione for being Harry Potter's sister. That comes with its own complications." Hermione, overhearing this conversation from the stairs where she'd been eavesdropping, felt a flash of indignation. She wasn't Harry Potter's sister. She was Hermione Granger, who happened to have a brother, who happened to be Harry. But she understood Dumbledore's point. Harry's fame would affect her too. Well, she'd just have to make sure people knew she was brilliant in her own right, not just an accessory to the boy who lived. The years from 8 to 11 were filled with preparation. Both children knew they were magical. They understood that Hogwarts awaited. They'd learned basic magical theory, control techniques, and as much as they could about the world they'd be entering. But they also had normal childhoods. They played football in the garden, went to the cinema, celebrated birthdays and Christmas with extended family who'd been told Harry was adopted but knew nothing about magic. They fought occasionally, usually when Hermione's need for planning clashed with Harry's impulsive nature. But they always reconciled quickly. "You're impossible," Hermione had shouted during one argument when she was 10 and Harry was 9. They'd been planning how to build a treehouse, and Harry kept suggesting ideas that violated the laws of physics. "You can't just decide gravity doesn't apply because you don't like my design." "Your design is boring," Harry countered. "We have magic. Why does the treehouse have to be normal?" "Because we're not allowed to use obvious magic where neighbors can see. We've been over this." They'd glared at each other, both stubborn, both certain they were right. Then Harry had said, "What if we compromise? Your design for the structure, my ideas for the inside." Hermione had considered this. "That could work. The inside isn't visible from outside. So we do it together? Your logic, my chaos?" "Our chaos," Hermione corrected. "Because I'm usually the one enabling your ridiculous plans." "True. So we're good?" "We're good. But Harry, next time you disagree with me, could you please not start by saying my design is boring? Sorry. Your design is actually really clever. I just wanted it to be more fun." "I know, and I'm sorry for calling you impossible." "You're not impossible. You're just very Harry." "Is that a compliment?" Usually, they'd hugged, the fight forgotten, and proceeded to build a treehouse that was structurally sound, Hermione's contribution, and filled with creative touches like a rope ladder that could be pulled up, a slide escape route, and hidden compartments, Harry's contributions. By the time Harry turned 11, both children were counting down to the day his Hogwarts letter would arrive. Hermione still had 2 years to wait, which frustrated her immensely. "I should be able to start early," she complained. "I've already read all the first-year textbooks. I could test into second year." "That's not how it works," Harry reminded her. Dumbledore explained, "You have to be 11. It's an arbitrary age restriction. It's the rules. I hate the rules. Since when? You're the one who always wants to follow the rules. I follow rules when they're logical. This rule is illogical." They were having this conversation on July 30th, the day before Harry's 11th birthday. Both were in Harry's room, supposedly sleeping but actually too excited to rest. "Tomorrow," Harry said. "Tomorrow the letter comes." "Assuming the owl can find the house through the Fidelius charm," Hermione said. "The books say Hogwarts letters are charmed to reach their recipient no matter what, but I've never seen documentation on how they interact with other protective enchantments. Hermione, you're overthinking. I'm being thorough. You're being Hermione, which means overthinking. Harry grinned to soften the words. The letter will come, and then I'll go to Hogwarts. And then you'll follow me in 2 years, and we'll both be together at the most amazing magical school in Britain. What if we're in different houses? Hermione asked quietly, voicing the fear that had been growing for months. Then we'll make it work. We always do. Promise? Hermione, nothing's going to change between us just because we're in different houses or because I'm at school first. You're my sister. That's forever. Forever, Hermione agreed, feeling reassured. They fell asleep eventually, both dreaming of Hogwarts, of magic, of the adventure that was about to begin. The next morning, July 31st, 1991, an owl arrived with a letter addressed to Mr. H. Granger. The second bedroom Granger residence, Crawley, Sussex. Harry tore it open with shaking hands, Hermione reading over his shoulder. Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Headmaster, Albus Dumbledore. Order of Merlin First Class Graham Sork, Chef Ref. Warlock Supreme Mugwump, of Wizards. Dear Mr. Granger, we are pleased to inform you that you have been accepted at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Please find enclosed a list of all necessary books and equipment. Term begins on September 1st. We await your owl by no later than July 31st. Yours sincerely, Minerva McGonagall, Deputy Headmistress. You got in? Hermione exclaimed, throwing her arms around Harry. You're going to Hogwarts? We're going to Hogwarts, Harry corrected. Eventually, both of us. Dan and Emma appeared in the doorway, smiling. Ready to go shopping? Dan asked. Diagon Alley? Harry asked hopefully. Dumbledore had described it during his visits. The magical shopping district hidden in London. Diagon Alley, Emma confirmed. We'll need to exchange money at Gringotts first. Dumbledore arranged for both you and Hermione to have vault access. Yours from your birth parents' inheritance, Hermione's from a ministry fund for Muggle-born students. They went that afternoon, entering the leaky cauldron through the hidden entrance Dumbledore had shown them years ago. Tom the bartender recognized Harry instantly. The scar was unmistakable. Bless my soul, Tom whispered. Harry Potter. In my pub, Harry tensed. This was it, the first real test of being famous. Harry Granger, Harry corrected politely. And this is my sister, Hermione. Sister? Tom looked confused. But I thought, well, never mind. Welcome, welcome, both of you. Diagon Alley was overwhelming. Shops selling robes, wands, cauldrons, owls, magical toys, books on every subject imaginable. Harry stared at everything, trying to absorb it all. Hermione had brought a notebook and was jotting observations, already planning where they'd go and in what order for maximum efficiency. You're organizing a shopping trip, Harry observed. Someone has to. Otherwise, we'll wander randomly and miss something important. Hermione, we have a list from Hogwarts. The list is basic. There are probably supplementary materials we should consider. At Gringotts, they were escorted to Harry's vault by a goblin named Griffhook. The cart ride was terrifying and exhilarating. When they reached Vault 687 and it opened to reveal piles of gold galleons, silver sickles, and bronze knuts, Harry stared in shock. That's all mine? He asked. Your inheritance from your parents, Griphook confirmed. You may withdraw what you need. When you turn 17, you'll have full access to the family vault, which contains significantly more. Harry filled a bag with coins, feeling strange about spending money from parents he'd never known. They'd want you to use it, Dan said quietly, reading his son's expression. For your education, for your future. That's what parents do. They visited Hermione's vault next, much smaller, containing just enough for her Hogwarts education when her time came. Then back to Diagon Alley for shopping. Madame Malkin's for robes. Harry was measured and fitted and insisted on buying a set of spare robes for Hermione for when you start. Flourish and Blots for textbooks. Hermione bought not just Harry's required books, but several supplementary texts. A pet shop where Harry chose a beautiful snowy owl he immediately named Hedwig. Finally, Ollivander's. The wand maker appeared from the back of the shop, his silvery eyes examining Harry with unnerving intensity. Harry Potter, Ollivander said softly. I've been expecting you. Harry Granger, Harry corrected again, but quietly. Ah yes, I heard you'd been adopted. Very good, very good. Now, which is your wand arm? The fitting process took 47 minutes and 23 wands. Hermione counted, growing increasingly anxious with each failure. Finally, Ollivander pulled a box from the back. Holly and Phoenix feather, 11 inches, nice and supple. Try this. Harry touched the wand and felt immediate warmth, rightness. He gave it a wave, and red and gold sparks shot from the tip. Oh, bravo! Ollivander exclaimed. Very good. Yes, very good. But curious, very curious. What's curious? Hermione asked before Harry could. The phoenix, whose tail feather resides in that wand, gave one other feather, just one. And it so happens that the phoenix feather in that wand gave Mr. Mr. Granger, his scar. Horror washed through Harry. You mean, your wand and he who must not be named's wand are brothers. Curious indeed how these things happen. The wand chooses the wizard, remember? I think we must expect great things from you, Mr. Granger. After all, he who must not be named did great things. Terrible, yes, but great. Outside the shop, Harry stood frozen, staring at his wand. Your wand is connected to Voldemort's, Hermione said unnecessarily, her analytical mind already working through implications. But Harry, that doesn't mean anything about you. The wand chose you for your own merits. You're nothing like him. How do you know? Because I know you. Because you spent 8 years helping me with homework, and defending me from bullies, and making me laugh when I was stressed. Because you're good, Harry. Your wand knows that. Harry looked at his sister and felt his panic ease. Okay, you're right. I'm usually right, Hermione said, attempting levity. Usually, Harry agreed, managing a small smile. That evening, they sat in Harry's room, surrounded by his new school supplies, Hedwig hooting softly from her cage. 1 month, Harry said. 1 month until I go to Hogwarts. I'm going to miss you, Hermione admitted. I know it's only a few months before Christmas, but Harry, we've never been apart for more than a week. I'll write you every day. That's excessive. Weekly is more practical. I'll write you every day anyway, Harry said stubbornly. And Hermione, the second you get to Hogwarts in 2 years, we're going to be together again. Nothing's going to change that. Promise? You're my sister. You're my best friend. You're my favorite person in the whole world. A few years apart doesn't change any of that. Hermione hugged him tightly. Don't forget me when you make new friends. Never. But Hermione, I am going to make friends, and you should too when you get there. We can't just spend all our time together. Why not? Because that's not healthy. We need other people too. But they're additions, not replacements, you understand? Hermione thought about this. So we'll have our own friends, but we'll still be us? Exactly. I can live with that. The month before Hogwarts passed quickly. Hermione helped Harry pack, making lists and checking them 3 times. Dan and Emma took photographs of Harry in his robes. Dumbledore visited one final time to give Harry advice. Make friends. Study hard. Ask for help when you need it. And Harry, remember that you're Harry Granger, Hermione's brother. The boy who lived is your history, but it doesn't have to be your identity. Finally, September 1st arrived. Platform 9 3/4 was chaos. Families everywhere, owls hooting, cats yowling, the Hogwarts Express gleaming in the morning light. Harry hugged his parents goodbye, then turned to Hermione. 2 years, he said. Then you'll be here too. 2 years, Hermione agreed. Write me everything. Tell me about classes, about the castle, about the teachers. I want to know all of it. I will. And Hermione, I know. Forever. Forever. Harry boarded the train, found a compartment, and pressed his face to the window. He watched Hermione on the platform, both of them waving until the train rounded a bend and she disappeared from view. Then Harry settled back in his seat and prepared for the next adventure. Hogwarts. Magic. The wizarding world. He was ready. Well, as ready as any 11-year-old could be. He just wished Hermione were with him. But in 2 years, she would be. And until then, they'd manage. They always did. First year. Harry alone. The Hogwarts Express compartment door slid open just as Harry was composing his first letter to Hermione in his head. Excuse me, do you mind? Everywhere else is full. Harry looked up to find a tall, lanky boy with flaming red hair and freckles standing in the doorway. He was holding what appeared to be a pet rat in a cage. Not at all, Harry said, gesturing to the empty seats. I'm Harry. Harry Granger. The boy's eyes immediately went to Harry's forehead, where his scar was visible beneath his fringe. Blimey, you're Harry Potter. Sorry, you said Granger. But you're him, aren't you? The boy who lived? Harry suppressed a sigh. This was exactly what he'd been dreading. I was born Harry Potter, yes. But I was adopted when I was 15 months old. My family is the Grangers, so I'm Harry Granger now. Right, sorry, I'm Ron. Ron Weasley. Ron sat down across from Harry, still staring slightly. But you really are Harry Potter? You defeated you-know-who? I was a baby, I didn't defeat anyone. My mother's magic protected me, and Voldemort's curse rebounded. That's all. Harry tried to keep the frustration from his voice. Ron seemed nice, just starstruck. Can we talk about something else? What house do you think you'll be in? Ron latched onto the subject change gratefully. Gryffindor, probably. All my family's been in Gryffindor. What about you? Not sure. Maybe Gryffindor. Maybe Ravenclaw. My sister thinks I'd be good in Gryffindor, but she also says I'm smarter than I act, so maybe Ravenclaw. You have a sister? Is she starting this year too? No, she's 2 years younger. Hermione. Harry paused, realizing he was about to launch into a detailed description of his sister to someone he'd known for 3 minutes. She's brilliant. Best person I know. I'm going to miss her. That's nice, Ron said, though he sounded slightly confused by Harry's obvious affection for a younger sibling. My younger sister Ginny starts next year. I'm mostly glad to get away from my brothers. They're always pranking me. They talked for the rest of the journey. Ron was easy to get along with, funny in a self-deprecating way, and refreshingly didn't treat Harry like a celebrity after the first few minutes. By the time they reached Hogwarts, Harry felt like he'd made a friend, which was good because stepping off the train and seeing Hogwarts illuminated against the night sky made Harry desperately wish Hermione were there to see it with him. The sorting ceremony was terrifying. Harry watched student after student get called up, the sorting hat placed on their head, a house called out. When Granger Harry was called, whispers erupted. That's Harry Potter. Why's his name Granger? I heard he was adopted by Muggles. Blimey, the boy who lived. Harry walked to the stool, sat down, and the sorting hat was placed on his head. Well, 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 a voice said in his mind. Harry Potter. Though you prefer Granger now, I see. Interesting. Very interesting. Please don't call me Potter, Harry thought. I'm Harry Granger. Names are just labels, boy. But I understand. You've built your identity around your adopted family. Admirable loyalty. Speaking of which, where shall I put you? You've got courage, certainly. Your mother's bravery runs through you. But there's also a sharp mind here. You're more intellectual than you let on. Ravenclaw would suit you. My sister thinks I should be Gryffindor, Harry thought. Ah, yes. Hermione? I'll meet her in 2 years. Extraordinary magical signature, that one. And you love her dearly. That's Hufflepuff loyalty right there. You also have cunning, you know. You're more strategic than most give you credit for. So where do I go? Where do you want to go? Harry thought about Hermione. She'd said Gryffindor valued bravery, and he'd need to be brave for what was coming. She'd also said she might be in Ravenclaw, and if they were in different houses, being in Gryffindor would be better than Slytherin for visiting her. Gryffindor, Harry decided. I choose Gryffindor. Interesting that you're choosing based on what will work best for your sister's eventual arrival. That's remarkably forward-thinking. But yes, Gryffindor will serve you well. You've got the courage to match the cunning. Better be Gryffindor! The last word was shouted aloud. The Gryffindor table erupted in cheers. Harry walked over in a daze, accepting congratulations from older students, sitting down next to Ron, who'd been sorted into Gryffindor moments before. The feast was overwhelming. The food was incredible. The ghosts were bizarre, and everyone kept staring at Harry. He noticed several students pointing at his scar and whispering. You okay? Ron asked quietly. Just a lot of attention, Harry admitted. Must be weird, being famous. I'm not famous. A baby version of me survived something impossible. That's not the same as me being special. That's a really mature way to think about it, a bossy voice said from across the table. Harry looked over to find a girl with very bushy brown hair and brown eyes examining him critically. For a split second his heart leapt. The hair reminded him of Hermione. But this girl was older, probably a third or fourth year. I'm Penelope Clearwater, she said, Ravenclaw prefect. But I heard you're sorting. You've got a good head on your shoulders for an 11-year-old. Not letting your fame define you. My sister would say the same thing, Harry said. She's good at keeping me grounded. Well, she sounds smart. Listen, if you ever want to talk about handling the attention, come find me. I'm not famous, but I've seen what it does to people. You'll need strategies. Thanks, Harry said, genuinely grateful. That night, in Gryffindor Tower, Harry wrote his first letter to Hermione. Dear Hermione, I'm in Gryffindor. The hat considered Ravenclaw, but I chose Gryffindor. Long story, I'll explain at Christmas. Hogwarts is incredible. The castle is bigger than any building I've ever seen. The ceiling in the Great Hall is enchanted to look like the sky. There are moving staircases and talking portraits and ghosts. You're going to love it. I made a friend, Ron Weasley. He's funny and nice and doesn't care that I'm famous. After the first 5 minutes, anyway. I miss you already. It's weird being here without you. I keep turning to tell you things and then remembering you're not here. Right back soon. Tell me everything happening at home. Love, Harry. Hermione's response arrived the next day via Hedwig. Harry, Gryffindor, I knew it. The hat considered Ravenclaw for you? That's fascinating. When I'm sorted, we'll have to compare experiences. I'm documenting everything about the sorting process for research purposes. I'm so proud of you for making a friend already. Ron Weasley, that's Arthur Weasley's son, right? Dad met him at the ministry once. Says he's fascinated by Muggle artifacts. His family sounds interesting. I miss you too. The house is too quiet without you. Mum keeps setting 4 places at dinner and then remembering it's just 3. We're all adjusting. Study hard. Learn everything. Take notes for me. I want to know about all your classes, especially Transfiguration. Professor McGonagall is supposed to be brilliant. Love, Hermione. P.S. Don't forget to eat properly. You get distracted when you're excited and skip meals. I'm not there to remind you, so you have to remember yourself. Harry smiled at the postscript. That was so Hermione, managing him from 100 miles away. Classes began the next day. Transfiguration with Professor McGonagall was fascinating. She was strict but fair, and Harry found himself genuinely interested in the theory behind turning matches into needles. Charms with Professor Flitwick was energetic and fun. History of Magic with Professor Binns was instantly the most boring class Harry had ever experienced. And Potions with Professor Snape was hostile from the first moment. Potter, Snape said during roll call, his black eyes fixing on Harry with immediate dislike. Our new celebrity. Tell me, Potter, what would I get if I added powdered root of asphodel to an infusion of wormwood? Harry's mind went blank. He had no idea. I don't know, sir. Clearly fame isn't everything. Let's try again. Where would you look if I asked you to find me a bezoar? I don't know, sir. And what is the difference between monkshood and wolfsbane? I don't know, sir. Harry felt his face burning with humiliation as other students snickered. Pity. Clearly, fame isn't everything. For your information, Potter, asphodel and wormwood make a sleeping potion so powerful it is known as the Draught of Living Death. A bezoar is a stone taken from the stomach of a goat and will save you from most poisons. As for monkshood and wolfsbane, they are the same plant, which also goes by the name of aconite. Well, why aren't you all copying this down? After class, Ron was indignant. That was unfair. He was asking you stuff that's not even in our textbook. He hates me, Harry said flatly. Did you see the way he looked at me? Like I'd personally offended him just by existing. That evening, Harry wrote to Hermione, Professor Snape hates me. I don't know why, but he called me out in front of everyone and asked questions I couldn't possibly know the answers to. It was humiliating. Hermione's response came the next day. Professor Snape was friends with your birth mother at Hogwarts. I found a reference in Hogwarts: A History, the expanded edition, that mentions Lily Evans and Severus Snape being close friends before something drove them apart. He might hate you because you remind him of her, or because you look like your birth father, who apparently was a bit of a bully to Snape at school according to some historical accounts I found. Either way, it's not about you personally. Don't let him get to you. Also, Harry, those questions he asked? I looked them up. They're all in Advanced Potion Making by Libatius Borage, which is a 6th-year textbook. He was testing you on material you haven't learned yet. That's not just unfair, it's deliberately cruel. I'm furious on your behalf. Study extra hard in potions. Don't give him an excuse to pick on you. And Harry, remember you're brilliant. One mean professor doesn't change that. Harry read the letter 3 times, feeling warmth spread through his chest. Even hundreds of miles away, Hermione had his back. She'd researched Snape's history, identified exactly why the questions were unfair, and reminded Harry of his worth. He missed her desperately. October brought the troll incident. Harry and Ron had been heading to Gryffindor Tower when they'd overheard Professor Quirrell screaming about a troll in the dungeons. During the chaos that followed, they'd realized that Parvati Patil was in the girls' bathroom crying and didn't know about the troll. Without thinking, Harry had run toward the bathroom, with Ron following. They'd found the troll cornering Parvati, who was frozen with terror. "Distract it," Harry had shouted. "I'll pull her out." They'd defeated the troll through a combination of luck and Ron's spell work, levitating the troll's club and dropping it on its head. When the professors arrived, Harry had taken full responsibility. "We were looking for Parvati," Harry explained. "We knew she didn't know about the troll, and we couldn't just leave her." Professor McGonagall had been furious and proud in equal measure. "That was extraordinarily foolish and extraordinarily brave. 5 points from Gryffindor for putting yourselves in danger. 50 points to Gryffindor for saving Miss Patil's life." That evening, Harry wrote to Hermione, "Ron and I fought a troll today, a 12-foot-tall mountain troll, in the girls' bathroom. Long story. We saved Parvati Patil. Professor McGonagall was mad but also gave us points. I think I'm going to be in trouble and celebrated simultaneously, which is confusing. Also, I wasn't scared while it was happening. I just saw Parvati in danger and knew we had to help. Is that normal? Should I have been more scared?" Hermione's response was immediate and lengthy. "Harry James Granger, you fought a troll?" "A troll? Do you have any idea how dangerous that is?" I looked up mountain trolls in Fantastic Beasts and where to find them. They're classified as XXXX by the Ministry. Dangerous/requires specialist knowledge/skilled wizard may handle. You're 11. You're not a skilled wizard yet. I'm so angry at you right now. And so proud. And so scared. Don't ever do something that dangerous again without proper backup. Do you understand me? I can't lose you, Harry. You're my brother. If something happened to you, I can't even finish that sentence. I'm glad you saved Parvati. That was brave and good. But please, please be more careful. The wizarding world is dangerous in ways we didn't fully appreciate. Promise me you'll think before you charge into danger. And to answer your question, no, it's not normal to not be scared when facing a troll. That's either exceptional courage or exceptional stupidity. Knowing you, probably both. Love, Hermione, P.S. Mum and Dad read your letter. Mum cried, Dad's pride angry, which is that thing he does when he's simultaneously proud and upset. They're writing to Professor Dumbledore to ask about safety protocols. Expect a howler, or at least a very stern letter. The stern letter arrived the next day from his parents. But there was also a note from Dumbledore. Dear Harry, your bravery in saving Miss Patil was commendable. Your recklessness in charging into danger without informing a professor was not. Please remember that courage without wisdom is simply foolishness. Your sister would tell you the same thing, I suspect. That said, I'm glad you're making the kind of choices that honor your Gryffindor house. Just perhaps make them with slightly more planning in the future. With warm regards, Albus Dumbledore. November brought Quidditch. Harry was recruited to the Gryffindor team after Professor McGonagall saw him catch Neville's Rememberall in a spectacular dive. He became the youngest Seeker in a century. I wish you could see me play, Harry wrote to Hermione after his first match, which Gryffindor won. Flying is incredible. It's like everything makes sense when I'm in the air. I feel free. I'll see you play next year when I'm there, Hermione wrote back. And Harry, I'm so proud of you. Youngest Seeker in a century. That's extraordinary. But please be careful. Quidditch injuries are common according to Quidditch Through the Ages. Don't break anything important. December brought a disturbing discovery. Harry, Ron, and Parvati, who had become a friend after the troll incident, had been investigating strange occurrences around the castle. They'd discovered something was being guarded on the 3rd floor, something protected by a 3-headed dog and various enchantments. I think someone's trying to steal whatever's being protected, Harry told Ron. I think it might be Snape. He wrote to Hermione about his suspicions, expecting her logical analysis. Her response was not what he expected. Harry, be very careful. If something's being protected at Hogwarts, it's probably incredibly valuable and incredibly dangerous. Don't investigate this alone. Promise me. Get help from professors you trust. Don't play hero. But also, I don't think it's Professor Snape. I know he's mean to you, but Dumbledore trusts him. Dumbledore doesn't trust easily. If Snape were really trying to steal something, Dumbledore would know. Look for someone else. Someone who might be acting suspicious, but that no one would suspect. That's how these things work. The culprit is never the obvious choice. Harry thought about this. Hermione was right. If Dumbledore trusted Snape, there must be a reason. So who else might be after whatever was being guarded? Professor Quirrell came to mind. The defense against the dark arts teacher stuttered constantly, seemed nervous around everything, and had been behaving oddly around Harry all year. He'd even flinched when Harry got too close. Harry started watching Quirrell more carefully. Christmas came, and Harry went home to Crawley. The moment he stepped through the door, Hermione launched herself at him. "You're back! You're finally back!" Harry hugged his sister tightly, realizing how much he'd missed her physical presence. Letters were good, but they weren't the same as actually being together. "I'm back," he confirmed. For 2 weeks. They spent Christmas catching up. Harry told Hermione everything. His classes, his friends, the troll, Quidditch, his suspicions about what was being guarded. Hermione listened intently, asking questions, taking mental notes. "You're going back to Hogwarts better prepared," she declared. "I've been reading ahead. Here's what you need to know about second-term classes." She proceeded to give Harry a comprehensive briefing on everything he'd be studying in January, complete with tips for tricky spells and warnings about common mistakes. "Hermione," Harry interrupted after an hour. "This is supposed to be Christmas vacation. This is me helping you succeed. This is you being Hermione, which means overthinking and over-preparing. Is that a complaint?" "No, just an observation." They spent Christmas Day with their parents, opening presents. Harry got several from Hogwarts friends, including an anonymous invisibility cloak that came with a note saying it had belonged to his father, eating too much and being a family again. That evening, sitting by the fireplace while their parents cleaned up dinner, Hermione said quietly, "I'm jealous." "Of what?" "Of you being at Hogwarts, meeting people, learning magic, having adventures, while I'm stuck here being normal." "You're never stuck being normal," Harry said. "You're Hermione. Normal doesn't exist for you, and in 18 months you'll be at Hogwarts too. Then we can have adventures together. Promise?" "Though hopefully adventures with slightly fewer trolls. I'd accept 1 or 2 trolls if it meant we were together." Harry returned to Hogwarts in January with renewed determination. He continued investigating who might be after the stone. He'd figured out that's what was being guarded, the Philosopher's Stone, which produced the elixir of life. His suspicions about Quirrell grew stronger. In May, everything came to a head. Harry discovered that someone was attempting to steal the stone that very night. He went to Professor McGonagall with his suspicions. "Professor, I think someone's going after the stone tonight. I think it's Professor Quirrell." McGonagall took him seriously, much more seriously than canon, because Harry had been trained by Hermione to present evidence logically rather than emotionally. "What makes you think so, Mr. Granger?" Harry explained. Quirrell's nervous behavior, his questions about the stone's protection, the fact that he'd been the one to conveniently alert everyone about the troll, which could have been a distraction. McGonagall's expression grew grave. "Wait here." She fetched Dumbledore. Within an hour, several professors had confronted Quirrell, discovered he'd been possessed by Voldemort's spirit, and prevented him from stealing the stone. Harry never had to face Quirrell alone, never had to watch his defense professor die in front of him, never had to nearly die himself. Because Hermione had taught him to go to authorities with evidence rather than trying to solve everything himself. 50 points to Gryffindor, Dumbledore announced at the end-of-year feast. For Mr. Harry Granger's quick thinking and proper use of authority in identifying a serious threat to Hogwarts. On the train home, Ron looked at Harry. "You're different from other famous people, you know." "How so?" "You don't act like you're special. You ask for help when you need it. You think things through. Most 11-year-olds would have tried to stop Quirrell themselves. My sister would kill me if I did something that stupid," Harry said simply. "She taught me better than that." "Your sister sounds terrifying. She's the best person I know," Harry corrected. "And yes, also occasionally terrifying." When Harry arrived home, Hermione was waiting at the door. She didn't say anything, just hugged him tightly. "You're home, You're safe. You didn't do anything stupidly heroic without backup. I went to Professor McGonagall exactly like you told me to. Good. I'm proud of you. Now tell me everything. Second year, Harry alone. Second year began with Harry and Ron missing the Hogwarts Express entirely. The barrier at platform 9 3/4 had sealed mysteriously, refusing them passage. In a moment of pure panic, Ron had suggested they fly his father's enchanted Ford Anglia to Hogwarts. Harry, remembering every warning Hermione had ever given him about proper protocol, had been reluctant. But they'd had no way to contact anyone, and term was starting. The logic had seemed sound at the time. Flying the car to Hogwarts was exhilarating, until they crashed into the Hooming Willow, breaking Ron's wand and destroying Mr. Weasley's car. When they staggered into the castle covered in bruises, they'd been met by a furious Professor McGonagall. "What possessed you to fly a car to Scotland?" she'd demanded. Harry explained about the sealed barrier. McGonagall's expression shifted from fury to concern. "Someone deliberately sealed that barrier. This is disturbing. But Mr. Granger, Mr. Weasley, you should have found a responsible adult, contacted the school via owl post, done anything except fly an illegal vehicle across country. You both could have been killed or exposed the wizarding world to muggles." "Yes, Professor," they'd mumbled. That evening, Harry wrote to Hermione with trepidation. "I did something stupid. Really stupid. Don't be angry. Well, be angry, but not too angry. Ron and I flew his dad's enchanted car to Hogwarts because the barrier sealed. We crashed into a tree. I'm fine, just bruised. Please don't tell Mum and Dad the full details. I'll tell them at Christmas." Hermione's howler arrived the next morning. The red envelope burst open, and Hermione's voice, magically amplified, screamed across the great hall, "Harry James Granger, you flew a car? A car? What were you thinking? You could have died. You could have been expelled. You could have been seen by muggles and exposed the entire wizarding world." The entire school was staring. Harry's face was crimson. "I am so angry at you right now, but also," the voice softened slightly, "I'm glad you're not hurt. Please, please be more careful. I can't protect you from there, so you have to be smart enough to protect yourself. Think before you act. Ask yourself what would Hermione say, and then don't do the thing if the answer is, she'd kill me." The howler burst into flames and disintegrated. Ron looked at Harry in awe. "Your sister sent you a howler. That's actually kind of brilliant." "That's Hermione," Harry said, mortified but also touched that even her anger came from love. "Logic first, feelings second, except when the feelings are about me being an idiot." The real trouble began in October. Writing appeared on the wall. "The Chamber of Secrets has been opened. Enemies of the air, beware. Mrs. Norris Filch's cat was found petrified." Then other attacks followed. Colin Creevey, a first-year who'd been obsessed with photographing Harry, was petrified. Then Justin Finch Fletchley and nearly headless Nick. The school descended into paranoia. Everyone suspected everyone else. And because Harry had been found at 2 crime scenes, some people suspected him. "You can speak Parseltongue," Ron pointed out, after Harry had accidentally revealed the ability during the dueling club meeting. "That's the mark of Slytherin's heir. Some people think you're the one opening the chamber." "That's ridiculous," Harry said. "Why would I attack students?" "Because you're Harry Potter. Famous, powerful, probably secretly evil. That's what people are saying." Didn't Harry was devastated. He wrote to Hermione, "People think I'm attacking students. They think I'm the heir of Slytherin because I can speak Parseltongue. I didn't even know I could do it until a snake appeared during dueling club and I told it to stop attacking Justin. Now everyone's scared of me. I don't know what to do. I'd never hurt anyone." "You know that, right?" Hermione's response was immediate and fierce. "Of course I know that. You're the kindest person I've ever met. You wouldn't hurt anyone unless they were threatening someone you loved. The people who think you're attacking students are idiots. Here's what you do. Document everything. Keep a journal of where you are at all times. When the next attack happens, and there will be one, these things follow patterns. You'll have proof that you weren't there. Also, research Parseltongue. It's not evil, it's just a language. Lots of wizards have spoken it. You need to separate the ability from the reputation. I'm coming up there. I'm going to ask Mum and Dad to let me visit Hogwarts. This is serious. You're my brother. I won't let people hurt you, even if the weapon is words." True to her word, Hermione convinced their parents to let her visit Hogwarts during the Christmas holidays to check on Harry. She arrived 2 days before Christmas break, 9 years old and utterly determined. "Where's the library?" she demanded, the moment she stepped through the flue into Professor McGonagall's office. "Special permission for the visit. Miss Granger, perhaps you'd like to settle in first." "The library, Professor. Please. I need to research Parseltongue, the Chamber of Secrets, and the historical precedents for possession-based attacks at Hogwarts." McGonagall blinked. "You're 9. I'm aware." "The library?" McGonagall actually smiled. "You're very much your brother's sister. Or perhaps he's your brother. The relationship seems quite bidirectional." She showed Hermione to the library where Harry was waiting. The moment they saw each other, Hermione ran to Harry and hugged him tightly. "You're okay. You're actually okay."
"I'm fine."
"Just tired of people thinking I'm evil?" "They won't think that for long. We're solving this. Together." They spent the next 3 days in the library. Hermione was only 9 but had an intellect that rivaled students twice her age. She researched with systematic precision, organizing information into categories, building theories, eliminating impossibilities. "The chamber was built by Salazar Slytherin," Hermione explained to Harry and Ron on the 3rd day. "He believed only pure bloods should be allowed at Hogwarts. He hid something in the chamber, a monster that would purge the school of Muggleborns when opened by his heir." "But Harry's not the heir," Ron said. "He's not even pure blood." "Exactly. Which means someone else opened it. Someone who can control whatever monster is inside." "Harry, you said the attacks have all occurred near water. And you hear voices in the walls?" "Yes, a hissing voice. Like a snake, but I understand it." "What if it is a snake? A magical snake moving through the plumbing?" "That would explain the water connection, and why you hear it, you speak Parseltongue." "What kind of snake could petrify people?" Harry asked. Hermione flipped through a book. "A basilisk, king of serpents. Kills with direct eye contact, petrifies with indirect eye contact, reflections, seeing through another's eyes, ghosts, etc." "How do we stop a basilisk?" Ron asked. "That's more complicated. But first, we need to figure out who opened the chamber and why." The who became clear when Ginny Weasley started behaving strangely. Hermione noticed. She noticed everything, and pointed it out to Harry and Ron. "Your sister is acting possessed," Hermione told Ron bluntly. "Memory gaps, ink-stained fingers from excessive writing, emotional volatility. Someone or something is controlling her." "How do you know about possession?" Harry asked. "I read. Also, I'm 9, and therefore naturally suspicious of everyone and everything." When Ginny was finally taken into the chamber, Harry felt responsible. She was Ron's sister, and she'd been used as a pawn. But he didn't rush blindly into danger. Instead, he went to Dumbledore with all the evidence he and Hermione had compiled. "A basilisk, controlled via a possessed student, moving through the plumbing," Dumbledore said, reading their notes. "This is excellent detective work, both of you." "Hermione did most of it," Harry admitted. I'm good at finding trouble. She's good at solving it. A complementary partnership. We'll rescue Miss Weasley together, with proper backup and preparation." The rescue was still dangerous. Harry had to go into the chamber, because he could speak Parseltongue to open it. But he went with Dumbledore and Professor McGonagall, with a plan, with Phoenix tears to counter the basilisk venom. When they emerged with Ginny safe and Tom Riddle's diary destroyed, Harry was exhausted but unharmed. "You saved my sister," Ron said, tears in his eyes. "Hermione figured out it was possession," Harry replied. "I just executed the plan." That evening, Dumbledore summoned both Harry and Hermione to his office. "You two are extraordinary together," he said simply. "Harry, you have your mother's courage and your father's instinct for heroics, but you temper it with your sister's logic and caution. And Hermione, you're one of the most brilliant minds I've encountered, not just for your age, but absolutely. You make each other better." "That's what siblings do," Hermione said matter-of-factly. "Not all siblings, I assure you. But you two, you're bonded in ways beyond blood or legal adoption. The magic recognizes it. You recognize it. Treasure that bond. You'll need it in the years to come." At the end of term, as Harry prepared to go home for summer, Hermione was already planning ahead. "Next year, I start at Hogwarts," she said, barely containing her excitement. "Finally, we'll be together again. Properly together. You'll be sorted into Ravenclaw, Harry predicted. You're the smartest person I know. Maybe. Or maybe I'll choose Gryffindor to be with you. You'd do that? Harry, I've spent 2 years reading about you having adventures without me. I'm not spending the next 5 years in a different tower. We're a team. Teams stay together. The hat might not give you a choice. The hat takes your preference into account. And my preference is being where you are. So yes, I'll probably be a Gryffindor. Harry hugged his sister. 1 more year apart. Then we're together at Hogwarts. Together, Hermione agreed. Just like we're supposed to be. 3rd year, Hermione arrives. September 1st, 1993. Platform 9 3/4 was its usual chaos, but Harry barely noticed. He was watching Hermione, who was dressed in brand new Hogwarts robes, looking nervous and excited and absolutely determined. Ready? He asked. I've been ready for 11 years, Hermione replied. They boarded the Hogwarts Express together. For the first time since 1st year, Harry felt complete. He found a compartment with Ron, and Hermione joined them naturally. So you're Harry's sister, Ron said. He's talked about you constantly for 2 years. I feel like I know you already. Harry's mentioned you too, Hermione said. You helped him with the chamber last year. Thank you for keeping him safe. I didn't really. You're the one who figured it out. From a distance. You were there with him. That matters. A girl with extremely straight, silvery blonde hair stuck her head in. Has anyone seen a toad? A boy named Neville's lost one. Haven't seen it, Harry said. Sorry. The girl drifted away, humming to herself. That was weird, Ron observed. That was Luna Lovegood, Hermione said. I read about her family. Her mother died in an experimental magic accident. Luna's in my year. How do you know that? Harry asked. I memorized the student roster. Research, Harry. Always research. At Hogwarts, the sorting began. Harry watched as Granger Hermione was called. The entire Great Hall went silent. Everyone knew by now that Harry Potter's adopted sister was starting Hogwarts. The whispers started immediately. That's Potter's sister. I heard she's brilliant. Bet she goes to Ravenclaw. The sorting hat was placed on Hermione's head. Ah, another Granger, the hat said in her mind. Though you're quite different from your brother. Such a mind. I haven't seen this degree of intellectual potential in decades. Ravenclaw is obvious. You'd thrive there. What about Gryffindor? Hermione thought. Interesting. Why Gryffindor? Because that's where my brother is. We're better together than apart. That's not weakness, it's strategy. You'd choose suboptimal house placement for personal loyalty? That's remarkably un-Ravenclaw thinking. But it is very Gryffindor and Hufflepuff. And honestly, a bit Slytherin, sacrificing individual achievement for strategic positioning. You'd do well anywhere, Miss Granger. But if you're choosing Gryffindor for your brother's sake, I should warn you, choosing comfort over challenge may limit your growth. It's not comfort. It's choosing to challenge him to be better, while he challenges me to be braver. We make each other better. That's not limiting. That's exponential. The hat laughed. Brilliant reasoning. Very well. Gryffindor. The Gryffindor table erupted. Harry was cheering loudest, watching his sister walk to his table, his house, where she belonged. Hermione sat beside Harry, and he immediately felt more grounded, complete. Welcome to Gryffindor, he said. Thanks for the recommendation, she replied, grinning. That night in Gryffindor Tower, Hermione was assigned a dormitory with Lavender Brown, Parvati Patil, and 2 other girls. But before curfew, she found Harry in the common room. This is amazing, she said, her eyes shining. I'm actually at Hogwarts. With you. Finally, Harry agreed. Now the real adventures begin. Together this time? Together, Hermione confirmed, just like it's supposed to be. From across the common room, Ron watched them and smiled. They were chaos and logic, instinct and planning, courage and caution. They were Harry and Hermione Granger, and Hogwarts would never be quite the same. 3rd year together, the sibling dynamic. Having Hermione at Hogwarts transformed Harry's experience completely. Where he'd spent 2 years navigating school somewhat isolated despite Ron's friendship, suddenly he had his anchor, the person who knew him better than anyone, the person who could read his moods, anticipate his concerns, and call him out on his nonsense before it became problematic. You're planning to try out for the Quidditch team again, right? Hermione asked during their first week, catching Harry in the common room. Haven't decided yet. Harry said, which was a lie. He'd been debating whether he had time for Quidditch with everything else happening. That's rubbish and we both know it. Harry, you love flying. You're brilliant at it. You're trying out. But if I make the team, that's practice 3 times a week, matches on weekends, which you'll manage because I'll help you with homework, and you'll help me be less rigid about my study schedule. We balance each other out. Stop overthinking. That's usually my line to you. Exactly. I learned it from you. Now I'm returning the favor. Try out for Quidditch. Harry made the team, again, as seeker. Hermione attended every practice, doing homework in the stands, occasionally shouting tactical advice that was surprisingly useful despite her limited understanding of the sport. She doesn't even like Quidditch, Ron observed during one practice, watching Hermione correct Harry's approach angle on a particularly tricky dive. But she's still here. Every single practice. That's Hermione, Harry said, affection clear in his voice. She supports what I love even when she doesn't fully understand it. Classes with Hermione were a revelation. In Transfiguration, they were competitive in the best way, both excellent, both pushing each other to be better. In Defense Against the Dark Arts with Professor Lupin, they partnered naturally, Harry's instinct combining with Hermione's theoretical knowledge to produce exceptional practical work. In Potions, Snape's hostility toward Harry became more complicated, with Hermione present. Miss Granger, Snape said during their first class together, examining her perfectly brewed shrinking solution. Adequate work. 10 points to Gryffindor. Then he turned to Harry, whose potion was equally perfect. Potter, your work is barely acceptable. Try harder. After class, Hermione was furious. That was exactly the same quality as mine. He's marking you unfairly. I know. He's been doing it for 2 years. That's not acceptable. I'm documenting this. If it continues, I'm filing a complaint with Professor McGonagall. Hermione, it's fine. It's not fine. You're being discriminated against because of who your birth father was. That's not justice, Harry. And I won't tolerate it. Every instance of Snape's unfair treatment went into a detailed log. By October, she had enough evidence to present to Professor McGonagall, who summoned Snape for a discussion. Whatever was said, Snape's treatment of Harry improved marginally. Still cold, still strict, but no longer actively unfair. You didn't have to do that, Harry told Hermione. Yes, I did. You're my brother. I protect you, even from unfair professors. I protect you from trolls and basilisks. You protect me from institutional injustice. We're a good team, the best team. The Dementor problem began in September with the creatures being stationed around Hogwarts to search for Sirius Black, the escaped prisoner everyone believed was hunting Harry. Harry's first encounter with a Dementor on the Hogwarts Express was devastating. He heard his mother's last moments, her screaming as Voldemort approached, her desperate pleas to spare her baby, the sound of the killing curse. He fainted, overwhelmed by the worst memory he possessed. When he woke, Hermione was beside him, holding his hand, her face white with fear. You were screaming, she said quietly. About your mother. About that night. I heard her die, Harry managed. I heard everything. Hermione's grip on his hand tightened. We're going to learn to fight these things. Dementors won't control you. I won't let them. Professor Lupin taught Harry the Patronus charm, ancient magic that required focusing on your happiest memory. Harry struggled initially, cycling through memories, trying to find one powerful enough. Think of your happiest moment, Lupin coached. Pure joy, untainted by anything else. Harry thought of Christmases, birthdays, Quidditch victories. But none of them were quite right. They all had small shadows, minor complications. Then he remembered. His first day home from Hogwarts after first year, walking through the door to find Hermione waiting, launching herself into his arms, both of them talking over each other about everything they'd missed. The absolute certainty that he was home, he was loved, he was where he belonged. Expecto Patronum. A silver stag erupted from his wand. Corporeal, powerful, unmistakable. Lupin stared. A corporeal Patronus. Most adult wizards can't manage that. My happiest memory is coming home to Hermione, Harry explained. After being apart for a year, that's when I'm happiest. When we're together. Later, Hermione asked, what memory did you use? Coming home to you after first year. Why? Hermione's eyes went suspiciously bright. That's Harry. That's really sweet. It's the truth. You're my happiest memory, Hermione. You always have been. You're mine too, she admitted. The day Mum and Dad brought you home, that's my happiest memory. The day I got a brother. The Sirius Black situation came to a head in May. Harry discovered the truth in stages. Sirius Black was innocent, had been his father's best friend, was actually Harry's godfather. Peter Pettigrew, thought dead, had actually betrayed the Potters and framed Sirius. And Pettigrew was currently disguised as Ron's rat, Scabbers. When the confrontation occurred in the Shrieking Shack, Harry and Hermione were there together. They faced Sirius, Remus, and the revelation of Pettigrew's treachery as a unit. He's telling the truth, Hermione said after hearing Sirius and Remus explain everything. The story holds together logically. Pettigrew's behavior matches someone under stress of maintaining a disguise. And Harry, the dates align. Sirius was never given a trial with Veritaserum, which is standard protocol. He was sent to Azkaban without due process. So my godfather is innocent and has been in prison for 12 years for something he didn't do, Harry said, his voice hollow. Yes. Which means we need to get him to the ministry, get him a proper trial, and expose Pettigrew. But the full moon rose before they could return to the castle. Remus transformed into a werewolf. Pettigrew escaped. Sirius was captured by Dementors. Hermione looked at Harry, the time turner. What? She pulled out a small golden device on a chain. Professor McGonagall gave me a time turner so I could take extra classes. It lets me travel backward in time. We could save Sirius. That's insane. And brilliant. But mostly insane. It's a calculated risk. We know what happened. We just need to ensure it happens correctly, while also rescuing Sirius without being seen by our past selves. It's theoretically possible. You're seriously suggesting we time travel? I'm suggesting we save your innocent godfather from a fate worse than death. Yes. They did it. Used the time turner to travel back 3 hours. Carefully orchestrated events to ensure everything happened as it had while also freeing Sirius and helping him escape on Buckbeak the Hippogriff. When they returned to their proper timeline, exhausted but successful, Dumbledore simply smiled at them. Well done, he said. Both of you. That took remarkable coordination and trust. We're good at coordination and trust, Hermione said. We've been practicing for 12 years. That summer, Sirius remained in hiding but sent letters regularly. He was cleared officially by the end of August when Peter Pettigrew was finally captured. He'd been hiding in Nocturne Alley. Sirius Black became the first person to be exonerated after Azkaban imprisonment. I have a godfather, Harry said to Hermione one evening at home in Crawley. An actual godfather who's innocent and alive and wants to be part of my life. That's wonderful, Harry, but it's also weird. I have Mum and Dad. I have you. I have a whole family. Where does Sirius fit? Wherever you want him to fit. Family isn't a limited resource, Harry. Having Sirius doesn't diminish what you have with us. It just adds another person who loves you. When did you get so wise about family dynamics? I've been your sister for 12 years. I learned from observation. 4th year, the Triwizard Tournament. 4th year brought the Triwizard Tournament. International students, and complications neither Harry nor Hermione had anticipated. When Harry's name came out of the Goblet of Fire as an unexpected 4th champion, Hermione's reaction was immediate fury. Someone entered you without permission, she said, pacing their common room while Harry sat in shock. This is attempted murder. The tournament is designed for 17-year-olds. You're 14. I know. We're refusing. You're not competing. The goblet creates a binding magical contract. If I refuse, I lose my magic. Hermione stopped pacing. That's barbaric. A magically binding contract that a minor didn't consent to? There must be a loophole. Dumbledore says there isn't. I have to compete. For the first time since arriving at Hogwarts, Hermione looked genuinely frightened. Then we prepare. Extensively. I'm researching everything about the tournament, about the tasks, about magical contracts. You're not facing this unprepared. She threw herself into research with terrifying intensity. Every spare moment was spent in the library, consulting older students who'd witnessed previous tournaments, writing to Bill and Charlie Weasley for insights, even contacting Victor Crumb, the Durmstrang champion, to ask about training methods. You're going to burn out, Ron warned as Hermione organized her 14th set of notes on dragon handling. Harry's life is at stake. I don't care about burnout. The first task was dragons. When Harry learned he'd be facing a Hungarian horntail, the most dangerous breed, Hermione went pale. Okay, we can work with this. Your strength is flying. We emphasize that. Summoning charm to get your firebolt, aerial combat, speed over power. You don't fight the dragon, Harry. You outmaneuver it. They practiced the summoning charm until Harry could call objects from hundreds of yards away. Practiced aerial tactics with the help of the Gryffindor Quidditch team. Studied dragon behavior patterns so Harry would know how the Horntail would react to different stimuli. The day of the first task, Hermione was visibly shaking. You've got this, she told Harry, gripping his shoulders. Summon the broom, fly fast, grab the egg, get out. Simple. Simple, Harry repeated, trying to believe it. And Harry? Come back. Do you understand? Whatever happens, come back to me. I promise. The task itself was terrifying. Harry summoned his firebolt, took to the air, and led the dragon on a spectacular aerial chase before diving past its defenses to grab the golden egg. The crowd went wild, but Harry hadn't emerged unscathed. A glancing blow from the dragon's tail had broken his wrist. When he landed, Hermione was there instantly, helping him to the medical tent. You're an idiot, she said, even as she held his good hand carefully. A brilliant, brave, spectacular idiot, but still an idiot. I got the egg, you broke your wrist. Small price for not being roasted alive? Harry, this isn't funny. I know. But Hermione, I'm okay. Madame Pomfrey will fix it in minutes. I'm okay. She hugged him carefully, mindful of his injuries. Don't scare me like that again. Can't promise that. There are 2 more tasks. Then we prepare better for those. The Yule Ball brought unexpected complications. As a champion, Harry needed a date. He'd been so focused on not dying in the tournament that he hadn't really thought about it until Hermione mentioned it casually. You need to ask someone, she said while they studied in the library. The champions open the ball. You can't not have a date. I haven't really thought about it. Well, think about it. The ball's in 2 weeks. Harry considered various options. Most girls seemed to want to go with him because he was Harry Potter, the famous champion. That felt wrong. He wanted to go with someone who saw him as just Harry. Eventually, he asked Parvati Patil, who he'd been friends with since the troll incident in first year. She accepted enthusiastically. Hermione, meanwhile, had been asked by Victor Krum, one of the tournament champions and an international Quidditch star. She'd accepted, partly because Krum had approached her intelligence first, asking for help with research in the library rather than appearance first. The night of the ball, Harry helped Hermione get ready in an unused classroom, as they'd done for every formal event since childhood. You look beautiful, he told her honestly. She'd done something with her hair. Sleek and elegant instead of bushy. Her dress robes were periwinkle blue. Mum helped me pick them out over the summer, just in case. Hermione adjusted the robes nervously. Do I look okay? I've never been to something like this. You look perfect. Krum's going to lose his mind. I don't care about Krum losing his mind. I care about not embarrassing myself in front of the entire school. Hermione, you're the smartest person here. You're brilliant and kind and brave. Anyone who doesn't see that is an idiot. You're going to be fine. She hugged him carefully. Thank you. For always making me feel like I'm enough. You're more than enough. You're extraordinary. At the ball itself, Harry danced with Parvati, but found his attention drifting to Hermione on the dance floor with Krum. His protective instinct flared. Krum was 18, Hermione was 13. That seemed wrong. You're staring at your sister, Parvati observed, making sure she's okay. She's fine. She's smiling. You're being overprotective. That's my job. I'm her brother. You're a good brother, Parvati said. But Harry, you need to let her have her own experiences. You can't protect her from everything. Watch me. Later, when Krum held Hermione a bit too close during a slow dance, Harry started to stand up. Ron grabbed his arm. Don't. He's too close. She's 13, not 8. She can handle one dance with an international Quidditch star. Sit down. I don't like this. I know. But mate, you've got to trust that Hermione can take care of herself. She's brilliant. She's probably the one in control of that conversation anyway. Harry reluctantly sat down, but he watched carefully for the rest of the evening. When Hermione returned to the Gryffindor common room later, Harry was waiting. Did you have fun? He asked, trying to keep his tone neutral. I did, actually. Victor's very intelligent. He's fluent in 4 languages, and we had a fascinating discussion about the applications of transfiguration in professional Quidditch. He's not just an athlete. That's good. And he was respectful? Hermione smiled. Harry, are you asking if my date behaved appropriately? I'm asking if I need to hex an international Quidditch star. You don't. Victor was a perfect gentleman. We talked, we danced, he walked me back here. That's all. Good. Because if he hadn't been a gentleman, I would have charged to my rescue like you always do. I know, Harry, but I can handle myself. I know you can. But you're my sister. Protecting you is basically hardwired into my DNA at this point. I know, and I love you for it. But sometimes you need to trust that I'm strong enough to handle things without you. I do trust that. Doesn't mean I like watching other guys dance with you. Get used to it. I'm planning to date eventually. Don't remind me. The second task required retrieving something precious from the lake. Harry discovered, with horror, that the something precious was a person. Ron for Crumb, Cho Chang for Cedric Diggory, Fleur's sister Gabrielle, and Hermione for Harry. They took Hermione, Harry told Ron, panic in his voice when he decoded the egg's clue. They took my sister and put her at the bottom of a lake. She'll be fine. It's magically induced sleep. She won't even know. She's at the bottom of a lake, Ron. What if something goes wrong? What if I can't reach her in time? Then you get her. That's what the task is. You'll get her, Harry. You always do. Harry used gillyweed, provided by Dobby the house elf, who'd heard Harry worrying, to breathe underwater. He swam to the merpeople's village, found Hermione tied to a pillar alongside the other hostages, and freed her immediately. But then he noticed Gabrielle was still there. Fleur hadn't arrived. He couldn't just leave an 8-year-old at the bottom of the lake. He freed Gabrielle too, even though it cost him time and potentially the task. When he surfaced with both girls, he was dead last. But Dumbledore awarded him extra points for moral fiber and care for others' safety beyond the requirements of the task. When Hermione woke up on shore, confused and disoriented, Harry was sitting beside her. What happened? She asked. You were my something precious. They put you in the lake for me to rescue. Hermione processed this. Of course I was. Who else would they choose? I'm just glad you're safe. Harry, I was never in real danger. The magic protected all the hostages. You didn't need to. Yes, I did. You're my sister. I'm always going to rescue you, even when you don't technically need rescuing. That's very you. That's very us. We rescue each other. That's how it works. The third task, the maze, went catastrophically wrong. Harry and Cedric reached the cup together, grabbed it simultaneously, and were transported to a graveyard where Peter Pettigrew was waiting with a grotesque infant-like form that was Voldemort. Pettigrew murdered Cedric immediately. Harry tried to fight but was bound to a headstone, forced to watch as Pettigrew performed a ritual. Bone of the father, flesh of the servant, blood of the enemy. Harry's blood was taken by force, added to the cauldron, and Voldemort rose from the potion, fully formed, terrifyingly powerful, red-eyed and snake-like. Harry Potter, Voldemort hissed. The boy who lived. Come to die. The duel that followed was brutal. Harry was outmatched in every way except determination. When their wands connected, brothers, as Ollivander had predicted, priori incontitum occurred. Ghostly echoes of Voldemort's victims appeared. Cedric, an old man, Bertha Jorkins, and finally James and Lily Potter. Harry, his mother's echo said, your father and I are so proud of you. Now run. Get to the cup. Get back. Harry ran, grabbed Cedric's body and the cup. The portkey activated. He landed back at Hogwarts to cheering crowds who thought he'd won. Then they saw Cedric's body, and the cheering turned to screams. He's back! Harry gasped to Dumbledore. Voldemort's back. The aftermath was chaos. The Ministry tried to deny Voldemort's return. The Daily Prophet ran smear campaigns against Harry and Dumbledore. The wizarding world fractured between those who believed and those who called Harry a liar. Through it all, Hermione was Harry's constant. When he woke screaming from nightmares about Cedric's death, she was there. When he couldn't eat because grief had killed his appetite, she sat with him until he managed a few bites. When the prophet published another article calling him an attention-seeking liar, she wrote rebuttals and documented evidence. I believe you, she said simply. Always. If you say Voldemort's back, then he's back. I don't care what the Ministry says. What if I'm wrong? What if... You're not wrong, Harry. I know you. You don't lie about important things. If you say you saw Voldemort, then you saw him. That's the end of the discussion. The whole world thinks I'm lying. The whole world is wrong. That happens sometimes. We deal with it. Fifth year, Umbridge and resistance. Fifth year brought Dolores Umbridge, ministry interference, and a level of institutional persecution that tested even Hermione's strategic mind. Umbridge was appointed defense against the dark arts teacher, specifically to suppress any mention of Voldemort's return. Her first lesson made her agenda clear. Theory only, no practical magic, absolute denial of any threat. The ministry has determined that defensive practical magic is unnecessary, Umbridge said in her sickly sweet voice. You are perfectly safe. There is no Dark Lord. Therefore we will study theory. Hermione's hand shot up. Professor, with respect, theory without practical application is incomplete education. How can we defend ourselves if we never practice defensive spells? Defend yourselves against what, Miss Granger? There are no threats. There are always threats. Dark creatures, hostile wizards, accidents with volatile magic. Defensive magic isn't just about fighting Dark Lords. It's about basic safety. 5 points from Gryffindor for arguing with a teacher. We will follow the ministry-approved curriculum. After class, Harry found Hermione fuming in the library. She's going to get people killed, Hermione said. No practical defense training. In a world where Voldemort just returned. That's not education. It's sabotage. What do? Hermione's eyes sharpened. We teach ourselves, we form a group. Students who want real defensive training. We learn practical magic properly, outside official classes. That's against school rules. So is time travel, but we did it anyway when necessary. Sometimes rules need breaking, Harry. This is one of those times. Thus Dumbledore's army was born. They recruited carefully, students from all houses who recognized the threat and wanted real training. Harry was the obvious teacher. He had actual combat experience. Hermione organized everything else: scheduling, curriculum, location, the room of requirement, security measures. You're the tactical mind, Harry told her during planning. I'm just the person who knows the spells. You're not just anything. Harry, you faced Voldemort 3 times and survived. You fought a basilisk, fought Dementors, fought Death Eaters. You know more about practical defense than half the Aurors at the Ministry. Don't diminish that. The DA flourished. Harry taught stunning spells, disarming charms, shield charms, and eventually Patronuses. Hermione created a detailed curriculum, tracked each student's progress, and modified teaching approaches for different learning styles. They worked together seamlessly. Harry demonstrated and explained practical applications. Hermione provided theoretical context and strategic analysis. They finished each other's sentences, communicated with glances, functioned as a teaching unit rather than 2 separate people. You two are unnervingly synchronized, Neville observed after one session. It's like watching one person with 2 bodies. We've been doing this since we were toddlers, Hermione said. It's just how we work. But Umbridge was hunting them. She'd created an inquisitorial squad, students who spied for her and reported rule violations. In February, they were betrayed by Marietta Edgecombe, whose mother worked at the Ministry. Umbridge raided their DA meeting with Ministry officials in tow. Caught, Umbridge said with vicious satisfaction. An illegal student organization, teaching unauthorized magic. This is grounds for expulsion. Harry immediately stepped forward. I organized this. It was my idea. Hermione just helped. If you're expelling anyone, expel me. No, Hermione countered. We organized it together. You can't punish Harry without punishing me. How noble, Umbridge sneered. The Potter siblings protecting each other? Unfortunately, you're both guilty. You're both expelled. Dumbledore intervened, taking responsibility and fleeing the school rather than be arrested. Umbridge became headmistress, and the school descended into authoritarian nightmare. She targeted Harry and Hermione specifically. Blood-quill detentions that carved words into their flesh, public humiliation, constant surveillance. Attempts to break them mentally and socially. I must not tell lies, was carved into Harry's hand after his first detention. Hermione saw the scars and went white with rage. She's torturing you. That's a dark artifact. That's illegal even by Ministry standards. There's nothing we can do. She's protected by fudge. Then we document everything. Every detention, every scar, every instance of abuse. When this is over, and it will be over, we'll have evidence to bury her. Hermione's detention resulted in, "I must not question authority," being carved into her hand. When Harry saw, something dangerous flashed in his eyes. "I'm going to kill her." "No, you're not. We're going to be strategic. We're going to survive this, gather evidence, and ensure she faces justice properly. Killing her would make us criminals. Exposing her makes her a criminal. You're always so rational. One of us has to be. You're the chaos, remember? I'm the logic." "Our chaos," Harry corrected, quoting their old refrain. "Our chaos," Hermione agreed. In June, Harry had a vision of Sirius being tortured in the Department of Mysteries. Every instinct screamed at him to rush to rescue his godfather, but Hermione stopped him. "Verify first. It could be a trap. Sirius could be dying, or Voldemort could be manipulating you through your scar connection. Harry, I know you want to save him, but rushing in blind could get you killed. Please verify first." They contacted Grimmauld Place through the Flu network in Umbridge's office. They broke in. Sirius answered, safe and confused. "I'm fine, Harry. Why would I be at the Ministry?" "Vision. Voldemort showed me you being tortured there. Then it's definitely a trap. Don't fall for it. Stay at Hogwarts." But Harry couldn't let it go. What if the next vision is real? What if someone actually needs help? "Then we alert the Order," Hermione said. "They go. We stay here where it's safer." They contacted the Order, who investigated the Department of Mysteries and found it empty. No trap, no Death Eaters, just an empty room containing a prophecy with Harry's name on it. "It was bait," Dumbledore confirmed later. "Voldemort wanted you to come to the Department of Mysteries, likely to retrieve that prophecy. Your caution saved lives today." "Hermione's caution," Harry corrected. "I would have rushed in. She stopped me." "You balance each other," Dumbledore observed. "Harry provides courage and instinct. Hermione provides wisdom and strategy. Together, you're formidable." That summer, the Ministry finally acknowledged Voldemort's return after he appeared publicly at the Ministry and fought Dumbledore. Umbridge was removed from Hogwarts in disgrace. The wizarding world finally believed Harry's warnings, but the damage was done. A year had been wasted. Voldemort was stronger. War was coming. "We need to prepare," Hermione said that summer at home in Crawley. "Really prepare. Not just school-level defense magic. We need to be ready for actual combat." "I know, Harry. I'm scared. I've read about the First War, the casualties, the tactics, the brutality. We're not ready for that." "Then we get ready. Together. Like we always do. Together," Hermione agreed. 6th and 7th year. The Horcrux hunt 6th year brought Professor Slughorn, private lessons with Dumbledore, and the revelation of Horcruxes. Dumbledore explained to Harry, with Hermione present at Harry's insistence, that Voldemort had split his soul into 7 pieces, hidden in objects, making himself effectively immortal. "We must find and destroy these Horcruxes before Voldemort can be killed permanently," Dumbledore said. "It's a task that will require considerable courage, intelligence, and determination." "We'll do it," Harry said immediately. "Harry, this isn't your burden alone." "I'm not doing it alone. Hermione and I will do it. Together." Hermione nodded. "Where do we start?" They spent 6th year hunting Horcruxes under Dumbledore's guidance. They destroyed the ring, already found and destroyed by Dumbledore, but at great cost. His hand was blackened and dying from dark magic. They retrieved the locket from a cave filled with Inferi, with Hermione stunning creatures left and right while Harry pulled Dumbledore to safety. But Dumbledore's health continued to decline. By May, he was clearly dying. "When I'm gone," he told Harry and Hermione, "you must continue the hunt. There are 4 Horcruxes remaining. The cup, the diadem, the snake Nagini, and one more I haven't identified." "You're not going anywhere," Harry said desperately. "I'm dying, Harry. The curse from the ring is killing me slowly. I have perhaps 3 months. But you and Hermione, you can finish this. You're ready. We're 16, and more capable than many adults. Trust yourselves. Trust each other." Dumbledore died in June, killed by Snape on the astronomy tower, though they'd later learn it was mercy killing, planned between them, to spare Dumbledore a more painful death and preserve Snape's cover as a spy. At Dumbledore's funeral, Harry and Hermione stood together holding hands, both crying. "We finish this," Harry said. "We find the Horcruxes. We end this war." "Together," Hermione agreed. 7th year didn't happen at Hogwarts. Instead, Harry, Hermione, and Ron went into hiding, hunting Horcruxes across Britain. It was grueling. They had limited information, limited resources, and were hunted by Death Eaters. They camped in forests, broke into the Ministry, infiltrated Gringotts, all while trying to piece together where Voldemort had hidden pieces of his soul. The locket Horcrux tormented them, whispering fears and insecurities. For Ron, it was being unnecessary, the third wheel in Harry and Hermione's partnership. For Hermione, it was failing, letting Harry down when he needed her most. For Harry, it was choosing between saving Hermione and stopping Voldemort if he couldn't do both. "I'd choose you," Harry told Hermione one night when Ron had briefly left camp. The locket whispered that he was weak for prioritizing his sister over the mission. "If it came down to you or stopping Voldemort, I'd choose you every time." "Don't say that," Hermione said. "Harry, you can't. The prophecy says you're the only one who can kill him. You can't sacrifice the mission for me." "Watch me. You're my sister. You're the person I love most in the world. Saving you will always be my first priority, even if it means Voldemort wins. Even then, I'm sorry if that's wrong, but it's the truth." Hermione was quiet for a long moment. "I'd choose you too, over everything. Over the mission, over doing the right thing, over the greater good. I'd choose you. Then we're both terrible people who love each other too much. Or we're human. Harry, maybe loving each other isn't a weakness. Maybe it's the reason we've survived this long." They destroyed the locket using Gryffindor's sword, infiltrated Gringotts for Hufflepuff's cup, and destroyed it with basilisk venom, found Ravenclaw's diadem at Hogwarts during the battle and destroyed it with fiend fire. That left Nagini and one unknown Horcrux. The unknown Horcrux turned out to be Harry himself. A piece of Voldemort's soul had attached to Harry when the curse rebounded. To defeat Voldemort completely, Harry would have to die. When they learned this, Hermione broke down completely. No, there has to be another way. We'll research, we'll find a solution, There isn't another way, Harry said, his voice eerily calm. "I'm a Horcrux. To make Voldemort mortal, I have to die. Then we don't kill him. We imprison him, He'll always escape, you know that." "Hermione, this is what the prophecy meant. Neither can live while the other survives. It was always going to end with one of us dying. It doesn't have to be you." "Yes, it does. I'm the Horcrux. I'm the one marked by the prophecy. This is my fight. It's our fight. It's always been our fight." Harry pulled her into a tight hug. "I know. But this part, this final part, I have to do alone. I can't lose you. Harry, you're my brother. You're my favorite person. You're you. I can't exist in a world without you in it. You can. You're the strongest person I know. And Hermione, I need you to promise me something. After I'm gone, you keep fighting. You help defeat Voldemort. You make sure my death meant something. Don't ask me to promise that. I have to. Please, Hermione, promise me. I promise," she whispered, breaking. "But I hate this. I hate that you're asking me to let you go. I know. But you're going to be okay. You're going to survive this, and you're going to build the world we always talked about. The one where Muggle-borns are treated fairly, and Dark Lords don't exist, and everyone is safe." During the Battle of Hogwarts, Harry walked into the Forbidden Forest alone to let Voldemort kill him. He didn't tell Hermione. Couldn't tell her. Couldn't face her knowing it was the last time they'd speak. When Voldemort's curse struck him, Harry's last thought was, "I'm sorry, Hermione." But Harry survived, protected by his mother's sacrifice, by Voldemort using Harry's blood in his resurrection, by magic older than time. The Horcrux inside him was destroyed, but Harry lived. When he returned to the battle, Hermione saw him and screamed his name. She ran to him through the chaos, threw her arms around him and sobbed, "You died. I felt it. I felt you die. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But I'm here. I'm alive. Don't ever do that again. Do you hear me? Don't you dare die on me again. I promise. Never again." The final battle saw Voldemort defeated. Harry's wand, brother to Voldemort's, refused to kill its master. The killing curse rebounded. Tom Riddle fell for the last time. When it was over, when the castle was secure and the Death Eaters captured or dead, Harry and Hermione sat together in the ruined Great Hall. "We did it," Harry said. "We actually did it. We did it, Hermione confirmed. Together, like we always do. I couldn't have done it without you. You know that, right? None of this surviving, fighting, winning, none of it would have been possible without you. Same, Harry. You're my courage when I'm too scared to act. I'm your logic when you're too brave to think. We're better together. Always together, Harry agreed. Always, Hermione promised. Epilogue. 19 years later, platform 9 3/4 was chaos, as it always was on September 1st. Harry stood with his wife Ginny and their 3 children, watching the crowd. Beside them were Hermione, her husband Ron, and their 2 children. Ready? Harry asked his oldest son, James Sirius. Ready, James confirmed. Though I'm nervous. What if I'm not in Gryffindor? Then you'll be in whatever house suits you best, Hermione said, joining the conversation. Houses are just different paths to the same destination, becoming a witch or wizard of character. But you and Dad were both Gryffindors, James pointed out. I was almost a Ravenclaw, Hermione admitted. The hat debated for several minutes. I chose Gryffindor because your father was there. Because being with him mattered more than being in the right house. Really? You chose your house based on Uncle Harry? He's not just your uncle, James. He's my brother, my best friend, the person I've chosen to stand beside since before I can remember. Of course I chose to be in his house. James looked at Harry. Is that weird, that Aunt Hermione followed you to Gryffindor? It's the best decision she ever made, Harry said simply. Besides marrying Ron, obviously. Obviously, Hermione agreed, smiling at her husband. Ron grinned. You two are disgustingly close, you know that. Even after all these years. We're siblings, Harry and Hermione said simultaneously. Them laughed. See, that's what I mean. You even talk in sync. 28 years of practice, Harry said. 29 if you count from when I was born, Hermione corrected. You were 2 when I arrived? That doesn't count as practice. I was practicing being a sister before I even knew what a sister was. That absolutely counts. James watched this exchange with the fond exasperation of a child who'd grown up watching his father and aunt banter. You two are weird. We prefer unusually synchronized, Hermione said. That's just a fancy way of saying weird, Rose, Hermione, and Ron's daughter pointed out. Rose, you're going to be a Ravenclaw, Hermione predicted. That level of sass combined with logical precision? Definitely Ravenclaw. I hope so, Rose said. I want to be in the smart house. All the houses are smart in different ways, Harry said. Ravenclaw values academic intelligence. Gryffindor values moral courage. Hufflepuff values emotional intelligence and loyalty. Slytherin values strategic intelligence and ambition. They're all valuable. That's very diplomatic, Dad. I learned from the best, Harry said, nodding toward Hermione. As the children boarded the Hogwarts Express, Harry and Hermione stood side by side watching. They're growing up, Hermione said softly. They are. Makes you realize how fast time passes. Do you ever regret it? How our lives turned out? All the fighting, the danger, the war? Harry considered this. No, because every hard moment led to this, to standing here with you, watching our children go to Hogwarts, knowing we built this piece together. I'd do it all again if it meant we ended up here. Me too. Though I'd prefer to skip the parts where you nearly died. Multiple times. Hey, you nearly died a few times too. Petrification, anyone? I was unconscious for that. You were awake for most of your near-death experiences. Much worse. Are you two competing over who almost died more dramatically? Ron asked, overhearing. It's not a competition. I've definitely had more dramatic near-death experiences. Harry and Hermione spoke over each other, then laughed. Still synchronized after all these years, Ginny observed, smiling. Some things never change, Harry agreed. He looked at Hermione. Thank you. For being my sister, my partner, my best friend. For choosing me, over and over again. For 29 years. 39 years, Hermione corrected. We're not done yet, Harry. We've got at least another 40 years of this. Can't wait, Harry said sincerely. As the Hogwarts Express pulled away, carrying their children toward the castle and their own adventures, Harry and Hermione stood together, as they always had, as they always would. Chaos and logic, courage and strategy. Harry and Hermione Granger. Some bonds weren't forged by blood. Some bonds were forged by choice. And those bonds were unbreakable. Forever. The end.